Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Mismatched. So breakups are something that most of us, not all of us, but most of us will experience in our lifetime. And yet somehow no one really teaches us how to survive them. And here's a thought, even come out better after them. Sometimes, well, most times we need help because the get over it, you'll be fine, move on, doesn't really heal a broken heart. So today's guest is a Toronto-based breakup and relationship coach and founder of Loveistics. Following her own broken engagement at 29 years old, she reimagined heartbreak as an opportunity for transformation. With degrees in gender studies and education, 6 coaching certifications, and over 12 years of experience, she is the creator of the Better Breakup Method. We're going to get to know that. Now, you may have seen her work because it has appeared literally everywhere, including every Canadian media outlet and Good Morning America, The Wall Street Journal, GQ, NPR, and so much more. We have in studio today Natalia Juarez. Natalia, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited for this because your story, you lived like your
Yes.
what everybody else experiences and now what you heal for people, which is really interesting. So tell me about this 29-year broken engagement, how it started for you.
So that was the catalyst, but there was so much before in my 20s. I'd been through another major heartbreak around 25, but it had taken me years to get through that breakup, and it was really only because I'd met someone else that I was able to get over it. So when my engagement ended just 6 months before I turned 30, I mean, it was a grief unlike anything I'd ever felt because I was losing a person, a relationship, all of the hopes and dreams that I had, how I expected that my life was going to look at 30. And instead I was starting over in every area. For example, like I moved out and everything. So I had to rebuild home as well.
It's so scary, especially at 30. I remember for
Yes.
me, I had like a midlife crisis at 30. I was like, not 35, like 30 hit me hard. It's because it's like, I feel like at 30, and I don't know about you, but I grew up thinking that like everything would be in line and in order of
Yes.
like the job, the husband, even kids and life.
Everything would be on track.
Totally.
Yes.
And so for that to like not be in place, like created so much anxiety for me.
Agreed. And especially because like I also really wanted that life at that stage. And for my friends, for my sisters, like it had all worked out for them. So
Same.
So I didn't really have a roadmap to follow. So after that, I ended up doing what most people do is I looked for a therapist. And, you know, as amazing as she was, I felt like it was somewhat incomplete in some ways because aside from the 1 hour weekly sessions, what was I going to do, you know, during the rest of the week? So I mean, back then there were way less resources than there are now, but I started looking for books, looking online. Like at that point, I didn't even know that date coaches and breakup coaches even existed.
And so what did you find that you discovered in working with dating coaches?
Well, at that point I hadn't. So I was trying to just consume as much content as I could about just other like dating books and things like that. But there really weren't very many books about breakups even at the time.
No, I think it was mostly like how to find someone.
Yes.
But not necessarily how to like get over someone.
Or there were divorce books, which I would read, and then I felt like I was being dramatic because it was just a breakup. But to my heart, it
felt like it.
It did. And it was really hard to explain that to other people. And that's why I do think that breakups as opposed to divorces are often minimized.
I couldn't agree with you more. I remember, like, I've gone through a few breakups. I know you know. I know you know. But often, like, I have said, like, I'm in physical agony because I'm so sad.
Yes.
And it's so hard to explain that to somebody who hasn't, like, endured, like, heartbreak like that, right?
And not everyone feels or emotes heartbreak in that way. But if you do, like, I will say, like, there are some people who really resonate with my work and really need it and understand its value. And then there are other people who kind of, they handle breakups in a very different way.
Right. To each his own. Everyone has their own thing.
Yes.
Okay, but what I think is especially interesting and fascinating is that you told me that you've been on 88 dates before you met your husband, your current husband, now the love of your life. That is wild to me. Okay, walk me through that chapter for you, for me.
Well, I will say that even after my engagement ended, I wasted no time in getting back out there,
So how soon after?
like months.
Yeah.
And I would not recommend that.
No. You're like, stay on your own. You need to be so how long after or how long should you be on your own before you put yourself out
So
there
I think
again?
it depends on a lot of circumstances,
Okay.
including your attachment style, how long you guys have been together, the circumstances of the breakup. If you were the one to initiate or you have a lot of clarity and understanding around the breakup, it might feel a little bit cleaner and easier for you to move on.
Right.
But I was definitely not ready, but I just really wanted to get my life on track. So yes, I got back out there. But because I was so committed to I wanted to turn my love life around. I did not want to repeat my 20s and my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I'm going to get really intentional. And I had, my list, but I had a spreadsheet. I was tracking how I was meeting some of these people, whether or not they were converting to a second date, things like that.
Okay.
And yeah, I would say that it doesn't, like now I don't think it would it will have to take other people 88 dates to meet someone, because I think at the time I thought it was a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
And in part you do need, exposure and like supply to dates.
For sure.
But
Especially if you've only been in long-term relationships and you really haven't
Yes.
met like a lot of people to then, I mean, it's like, it works in both ways. The devil of like comparison, right? It's like the more people that you have to date, the better it is, because you can really see the scope of people that are out there and and kind of look at the menu, so to speak, of like what works for you, what you like, what you don't like, and kind of discover that through the people that you meet. But also then sometimes it can be confusing and like overload. And then you get like extra particular because you're identifying one small quality and another small quality, and it makes you less tolerant or understanding of like really getting to know someone, right?
Yes. And I will say I didn't even know how to date properly. I was dating based on that chemistry, and it had to be there at first, as opposed to dating intentionally and what I now call dating by design, where like once you know what it is you're looking for, there is this backwards design that happens. And it's learning how to date based on more compatibility and connection versus pure chemistry, because that's what I had done in my 20s. But
that's what everyone does, in all fairness.
And some people never stop.
Yeah. There's that too. That too, for sure. For sure. Okay, but let's talk about heartbreak before we talk about intentional dating, because that's also really interesting to me. Heartbreak, as we said, not something that there's really people have like a medicine for, of take this and you're going to feel better tomorrow, and that's how it is. And it's different for everybody. But you've been able to identify this breakup method. So tell me what this is exactly.
So I call it the Better Breakups Method, because breakups are hard. And as much as I love the concept of conscious uncoupling, that often requires two people to be on the same page, and like many things kind of fall into place. But so often it's one person who's initiating, and that's a part of what makes it difficult. So what I like to do is just try to make it a little bit better and healthier along the way. And even though my broken engagement happened now 15 years ago, which I cannot believe, something in that experience, I developed such a fascination for heartbreak. And even once I was beyond it, to this day, I still enjoy reading breakup books. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm just so fascinated by the impact that it can have on people's lives if they embrace it as an opportunity to connect with themselves. And what I've discovered is like my mind often thinks in like frameworks, and I'm always trying to simplify this. And like people will come out with new books and methodologies, but I find things tend to fall into what I call the 4x4x4 method.
Okay.
It's the 4 phases of heartbreak, then the 4 pillars of healing.
Okay.
And then the 4 foundational elements.
Okay. Let's talk about the first 4. Hit me.
So the 4 stages are, the first stage is what I call the survival stage. Often it's for people who have just discovered it. They might feel blindsided. And that's a period of time when you're in shock, disbelief. I can't sleep. I can't think about anything else. I'm completely ruminating. And during that time, like your job is not growth. Your job is just to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Just to ride this wave. Now, luckily, that tends to only last a few days to maybe a week at most. And then people tend to move into probably the hardest period, which is the withdrawal period. which at best can last 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes 2 months. And that's when there's a lot of longing, rumination, obsession, internal bargaining. Yeah.
Yeah, all those things. I definitely can relate to that. I think that got less and less as time went on, like as I grew older, I would say. But definitely the back and forth, the obsessing over the relationship, and it's like, yeah, really accepting what has happened and
that's
choosing.
the next stage.
Oh, that we're not even there yet. That's not
No. Withdrawal is when your focus is still
missing
on your
the
ex.
routine of everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And it can feel for many people like they're in rehab. Like
yeah.
They and what will determine how long that period lasts is your beliefs and the behaviors that you're engaging in. For example, if you continue to look up your ex on social media or like think about them, you're feeding that. So that will extend it. But then beyond that, this is where the real work happens. The integration phase. It's usually the longest point. And it's when instead of the heartbreak feeling like it's the predominant thing in your life, it's more of just a constant companion. It's there. There's a little bit more spacious, and you might not be ready to date, but you feel still very, very tender. But this is where you can really start to do some of the grief work.
Okay.
Yeah. There's more emotional availability for that. And then on the other side of this is then when people are feeling they're in a place of renewal, like I really feel like I'm on the other side. Some indicators of this will be that people can look back on their relationship with gratitude, goodwill for their ex, and a better understanding of what that relationship had to teach them.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that everybody gets to
No,
that?
they don't. Definitely.
I was going to say, like, Natalia,
I love that question.
I don't know that I could say that for every breakup. I still feel that way even years later. Yes, there was a lesson for sure, but am I grateful? You know, that's up for debate. I feel...
Well, I will tell you, one of the many joys of getting older is that some of those relationships just continue to learn from them, even in retrospect, because you start to be able to connect those dots of if that hadn't happened, I may not have learned these lessons that now I'm really benefiting from. Mm-hmm. So those are the 4 phases. And I find it's really helpful for people to know what to expect.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's across the board in anything in life.
Yes.
Even when I'm working out, I like when the instructor tells me what's coming up in advance.
Yes.
So I can mentally prepare for what's coming. It's like super helpful.
Yes.
And I think that covers for you, people who walk in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and they tell you, hey, because I hear this a lot, and I have friends that say this, like, you know, my ex and I are broken up, but I can't stop looking at his social media, or I can't stop messaging him. Like, how do you cut that part out? Because, so I will say, I have very strong willpower where I'm not that girl where like when things are cut off, I won't reach out to you. I will delete every photo in my phone. Like the next day that I break up with somebody, I delete everything in my phone. I know it's a bit neurotic. Everything in my phone, throw out everything that is a reminder in my house. It's like a cleanse because I have to, because I feel like the longer it lingers, the more the obsession happens. Yes. So like, how do you really stop yourself from like getting to that point of checking every day, watching stories? Oh, he just added a new girl, or vice versa. She just added a new guy, you know?
You would not believe how much social media has impacted recovery,
because you can track someone like all the time, right?
And like whether people are posting stories, you know, even if your ex watched your story, or when numbers
maybe
go
he
down,
still wants me back, or like he wants to keep tabs on me, or
people will keep track of like how many followers they have or unfollowers, and then try to figure out who those people are, and then connecting dots, and then like those rabbit holes go so deep. So I think the fact that you even mention that, I think definitely speaks to attachment styles. Yeah. People with an anxious attachment style, which make up about 20% of the population, like they have those tendencies where it is very, very difficult for them to stop those behaviors.
Why do you think, like, how do you, I'm going to go even more back. How do you think one develops into an attachment style? Like, how does that become your style?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, this is a whole other topic that if you ever want to talk about it.
Another podcast. Sorry, friends.
But because I will say it's what completely turned my love life around.
Really?
Yes.
Working on that.
Of all of the like books, I paid one coach $10,000.
Stop.
Yes. And she helped me in many ways, but nobody brought up attachment theory.
Interesting.
My ex-fiance was a therapist. He never talked to me about this.
Wow.
So in my early 30s, after I'd been through the worst of my heartbreak, I was in therapy one day and I felt like we were we just kind of kept having the same conversation.
Yeah.
And one week I would feel like this, another week I would feel like this. And so I was just looping. And so I finally asked her, I said, I know you're not supposed to tell me what to do, but I give you my permission to give me your opinion. I really would love to know what you think. And so she puts down her notepad and she just looks at me. She's like, Natalia, you might want to take a look at attachment theory.
Interesting.
Nicole, I walked to Indigo, did a search, found the book Attached, which is, I think it's a great first book for people to read.
Okay.
And I binged it in a weekend and my whole love life made sense.
Stop.
Yeah. I discovered that I had an anxious attachment style and that had made my partner selection, discerning whether or not I should stay, how I healed from heartbreak, how I was dating. And I realized that I was more drawn to people who had more of an avoidant attachment style because the anxious avoidant connections can feel very passionate, come here, go away, you really have to work for it, as opposed to secure love. To someone who's never really experienced it, it can seem kind of boring. And I just realized how many people in the past I had overlooked because I didn't feel there was that passion.
Right.
Yeah.
I've said that before on this podcast as well, that people often mistake passion for like a healthy relationship when that's not necessarily, I feel like passion should build in getting to know someone because you fall in love with their soul and who they are.
Yeah.
But having that off the top is just not like a healthy, sustainable relationship, right?
I mean, it's an incredible experience.
For sure. You got to have one or two of those in your lifetime.
Yes, it's what movies are made of. But it sometimes is difficult to have a long-term relationship built on that. Yes.
So tell me about the secure attachment style then and what that looks like. I actually, in full disclosure to everybody, this was the first question Natalia asked me on the phone call before we sat down she goes, so what's your attachment style? I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm secure. I think I am.
Yes. And from some of the podcasts of yours that I'd heard, that kind of comes through your language. And I do find that the more you learn, you do find to be able to read people. And so people with a secure attachment, I mean, luckily they make up about 50% of the population. And often as children, they would have grown up and really had their needs met. And they grow up feeling like love is safe. They can express their feelings. And they grow up with an ability to form really strong bonds. And even when they do go through heartbreak, they'll feel it. They feel it deeply, but they have this internal sense that everything is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And that's something that people with an anxious attachment style don't have. Like their version of okay is I need to restore that connection because that is safety.
Yes. Yeah, I definitely have friends that are in that state. And it's really hard, honestly, to come from a place of secure attachment style to understand. And I'm trying, you try and be patient and to listen. But sometimes it's hard because I'm just like, stop.
Yes.
You can do it. You're going to be fine. I promise,
And it's like trying to hold down beach balls. Like you're not going to be able to manage it. You need to go to the source and really regulate the system. But it's these emotional and mental thought patterns that people have to develop. Now, the good news is it is not your fate.
I was just going to say, once you're diagnosed as an anxious attachment style, is that your life moving
and
forever?
Even avoidance. Again, we won't go too
deep,
but people with avoidant attachment styles are so misunderstood. Often as children, they might have had their needs not met or minimized, and they learn to very early on to become very independent. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they sometimes can also compartmentalize their emotions, and often for them, intimacy can feel not safe.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So, yes. So what will happen is they'll meet someone great, and then they start to find things that they don't like. But really, those things that they're picking up on are actually designed to try to create emotional distance. And they're the people who, after a breakup, get under someone, to get over someone, move on. They don't feel like they need to process. But coming back to the good news, You can work on your attachment style. It's not fixed.
Is
So,
it just like learned habits, essentially, like being able to
Yeah.
recognize your own patterns
Yeah.
and kind of putting something else in place so that
Yes.
you
It's-
have something to combat it?
It's learning how to adopt secure tendencies, thought processes, developing more secure attachments, learning that it's safe to communicate your needs. And there's a lot to it, but that's one thing there are many things that are misunderstood about attachment, but that's definitely one of them. And the fact that it's your upbringing, your personality, and then biologically, these three styles developed because at one point, each one of them was advantageous. So there's no right or wrong. Yeah.
In dating and when you're looking for your person, if someone has a different attachment style than you, is that problematic? Yeah?
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's all about one, having awareness of what the other person's style is and having healthy, secure communication around it. I mean, let's just say someone is more avoidant. The fact that they're able to communicate the fact that, okay, I'm starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. I need to take a walk. I'll be back. Things like that. Or if someone's anxious, letting their partner know, I feel anxious. I need some closeness right now. I need some reassurance. Things like that.
It sounds like a lot of it has to do with like self-identity, like really understanding self to be
Yes.
able to understand how then you show up in a relationship. Is like how does that discovery happen and like the understanding of that? Because I think only then do you really show up as the best
Yeah.
version of yourself, and you attract the right person.
I love that you're bringing this up because this is the opportunity I think breakups offer us, and not everyone takes it. Many of whether it's my just clients or people in my community or people I, meet at a dinner party, so often what I love is that it's this relationship ending where I feel sometimes the beginning of some really like incredible self-work can happen. But it's often that heartbreak that brings us to want to do the work.
100%. I mean, otherwise you just think everything is
Yeah.
fine and dandy. It's like,
Yes.
why would you? It's almost like, if I could compare it to anything, it's like, why would I work out if my pants still fit? But then the one day that they don't fit, you're like, oh shit, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And you reevaluate what you're eating and what you're doing,
Yes.
Now for you and talking about like breakups and healing, what is like the first step that you tell someone as soon as they walk into their office that is like a non-negotiable, this is what you have to do?
Okay, well, this will bring us back to the 4x4x4 method because I walk them through the framework.
Okay.
So once we talk about the stages, then we move into the 4 pillars of healing.
Okay.
The first one is all about self-care. Mind, body, soul. Like you have to exercise, sleep well, nourish your body. And so when people talk about self-care, it isn't just something lofty, like it actually is something that you need to do in an essential practice.
Why?
So the reason that self-care would be the first step is you've got to put your own oxygen mask on. Like this experience it's emotional, it's mental, it's physiological. And so you need to prepare your body and your mind and your emotions to go through this. So very often I will encourage people to just go back to basics. Are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you exercising? And as a result, people end up being in better shape after we're done working together,
Yeah,
which is amazing. The second pillar is all about grief work. This is the emotional processing and being with. And it happens in 2 ways, either internally with journaling, reflecting, but then also externally talking to loved ones, professionals, things like that. So expressing it. Then the third pillar, it's all about rebuilding. You got to rebuild your life. If you have to move, rebuild your home, if you need to get another job, if you need to develop a new friend circle or your lifestyle. Let's just say you were always doing things on the weekends. Well, now you need to make other plans. So there's a lot that goes in there. I would also add to that even reconstructing your understanding of relationships is just I need to rebuild these internal concepts because I find many people benefit from because they want to know what went wrong.
Right.
Yeah, to help them move on. And then the last one I love, it's joy.
Nice.
Yes, you need a little bit of joy and pleasure in your life and something enjoyable like a hobby or a project to offset a lot of these other areas because it's almost like a part-time job working through your recovery.
For sure it is.
Yeah.
It's time dedicated to, unlearning things to get yourself in the right headspace. And sometimes like again, when you feel like your whole world has crashed, it makes it so challenging to like wrap your head around the idea of like, what am I going to do this weekend? Something as simple as that feels so overwhelming and daunting. I remember like after most breakups, I would like jam pack my schedule, like to the point where like it was maybe a little unhealthy. Be like, okay, I'm going to spend this night, then I'm going to do this, but then I'm going to go have self-care for 2 hours. And then like, it was like packing in everything that I could so that I wasn't left thinking, which also isn't very good for you either.
I think many people do that, and it's an early. I find early on, it's all about self-preservation. What's going to make you feel better?
Yeah.
If packing your schedule is what you need, do that, because during that withdrawal period, that 4 to 6 weeks, you just need to get through it. If that's going to help you to not reach out to your ex, do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So speaking of reaching out to exes, what are your thoughts on closure? And everybody says, I've heard it many a time. I'm sure anybody listening or watching can say someone at some point has said, I need closure. What do you say to that?
I talk about this probably every week.
Yeah. Okay, good.
It's a perennial problem. Closure is overrated.
Oh,
yes.
I love it.
It is. And I have believed that for years and years. Now, I understand the need to have that, but I think what people are looking for is more of a sense of completion. Like something about this feels unfinished. And that's why I find I do, as a part of the process, is we do a breakup analysis, what happened. Ooh. And we go through 7 different areas. And once people are able to see, almost like isolate the problems and how the dominoes kind of fell and what was within their control or what was a part of their exes, then they're just more at peace to accept the breakup. Mm-hmm. And sometimes either many of the questions that they have, I'm like, I can probably answer this for you, mm-hmm. or just knowing there will always be more questions. Yeah.
How do you tell someone to like let go, or how do you let go of that? Because people will always wonder, because you don't really know.
No,
you're never gonna really know.
Yeah.
And in fairness to like the person on the other side of it too, like they're still discovering the exact same thing, most likely. So
they may not know, or they may know and they don't want to tell you.
Yeah, that too. That's also a thing. There are all kinds.
So I encourage people, give yourself closure, whatever that means. If it's a ritual, like, or even answering for yourself of doing some like intuitive journaling. If you did know, like, what are all the questions that you have, and then answer them for yourselves. It was
interesting.
Most likely this or this. But I definitely think it's an area that people can empower themselves in, and it doesn't have to be something that holds someone back. And it is, I think it's a really common, and this is why like the psychology of a broken heart, like every heartbreak is different, and every heartbreak, your own will always feel the absolute worst. But what I find fascinating by now working with, over 500 people intimately, is that a broken heart has there's a language to the broken heart, and there are these patterns to this human universal experience that we have.
What is like the most common pattern that you see that people come to you with? I'd say now more than ever, because I know with online dating and whatnot, which is what I think, I don't know the percentage of people, but I feel like it's quite a large percentage are turning to do these days.
I think trying to move through it really quickly, almost like that's a badge of honor.
Interesting. Yeah.
Right. Whereas, and that's why I'm really trying to think of, how do we reimagine heartbreak? This has happened to you, and so now this takes us to the last 4.
See how we're doing this? We're segueing.
The foundational elements. And these elements have been untouched over the years. Like, if I came up with this method years ago, and it's just been tried and tested.
Yeah.
So the first one is to validate your experience. Like, if your arm was broken, people would see that. People would know that you're having difficulty doing things. But when your heart is broken, it's invisible.
Right.
And so at least to yourself, you have to validate that you are going through something. And it might not make sense to anybody else, and especially if it's just a breakup, mm-hmm. right? And not a divorce. So that's the first one. And the second one is to embrace that you are experiencing romantic grief. Like, breakup grief comes with in addition to the 5 phases of grief, there's also a sense of rejection and of the shame very often that people feel of going through something so public.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And so many of my clients will say, I feel so dramatic. I feel like someone died, but I feel like I can't say that. But it's like, but there has been like this person. And sometimes they'll tell me, I almost feel like I would feel better if they died because that, but like now they're choosing that they don't want to be with me. And what is that? How does that make me feel about myself? So I let them know, like, this is grief. And it's minimized and often bypassed, but it is very real. And then the third is to do the work, like start doing something, just like, and you can start, there are so many different places. Like if you look at the pillars, there are so many different places to start, but just start becoming engaged in your own recovery. Take this on. And then the last one is to give it time. So, which is often the first thing people lean on.
It's true. It's true. I mean, the saying time heals is a real thing. If you asked me like what I felt 6 months ago, I wouldn't be able, like, I feel like a whole different person, like it's so interesting how time does that.
Yes. But if you do everything else around it, it will not only accelerate the process, but it'll make it meaningful. Like, have you heard of kintsugi?
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, maybe you know it. It's the Japanese art form where they repair broken pottery with gold. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes, I've seen it. Okay.
So the philosophy of it is that things can be more beautiful and precious for having been broken.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
I think it's just it's the perfect metaphor for
broken
gifts
hearts. Yeah.
that heartbreak can offer if, people are willing to go through that process for themselves.
It's so interesting because I say, like, your heart's a muscle, right? But it's interesting that when you feel heartbroken, it feels very weak and depleted and small. But somehow, with time and work, like you said, you feel it like grow back. And every time that it does that, like a muscle, it contracts, but it grows like stronger each time. And I can genuinely say, like, after being through several heartbreaks, that like I feel like my heart is like stronger for it. And so it's not, like you said, it's not always a really horrible thing. Is it devastating at the time? Yes. But it's like, I don't know how many people come into your office and walk out feeling worse at the end of all of the work that they do. Like nobody,
no.
Right? like you're gonna feel better and be better because of going through that.
Yes. And not everyone, like, it's definitely not maybe what people are ready to heal at first, but if you, take this on and go through it, it can, like, often at first people just want to know that they're going to be okay. You're not going to feel this way forever. You are going to meet someone else. Those are often like the most common fears that first come up. But then beyond that, I think a part of why I secretly, I love this work, and I'm almost just like, people will often think that my work is so sad. They're like, how do you handle that? But even though people might come to me when they feel broken, I just see, like, I can picture them on the other side.
Yeah.
And so I think the promise of this can be that a heartbreak and a breakup can actually be the best thing that's happened for you, not to you.
Yeah, for sure. How did your broken engagement change you and how you moved through your life and finding your person?
Oh my gosh, so many. It's what that second heartbreak, especially it being an engagement at 30, like, so many things came together. My background's in gender studies. I've always had an interest in relationships, but it's what humbled me to look at myself as a common denominator. What can I learn about myself and about love and about healthy relationships? Because I'll say that the relationship that I have now is it's a product of all of that work. But yes, it's been work.
Yeah, for sure.
And now being married, I'm learning new lessons.
Yeah. We talked about this earlier too. I love that you said, like, in a relationship, and I said this too, like, you are the only common denominator in every heartbreak that you've gone through. Yes, people may have done something or like showed up in a certain way, but you're still choosing, obviously, the same people that are not good for you. Either way. Looking at yourself in the mirror, how do you really get to that point to identify where can I be better so that this is not happening again?
Yeah. With this, the idea of being a common denominator, it's not about assuming all responsibility. It's just that we only have agency over ourselves. So one, I think when you're on the other side of a relationship or going through a breakup, you can start to see some of the problems that were there maybe early on. And questions around like, why did I choose this person? Why did I stay for so long? Why was it so hard for me to leave? And I'll say for me and for many of my clients, often it relates to past traumas, attachment styles. Like people who have an anxious attachment style have a very difficult time leaving relationships because their primary objective is to try to maintain that connection. Yeah, so they will overlook things. They will have a concern about bringing things up out of a fear of a loss of that connection.
Interesting. So those are, again, identifying certain things about yourself will then help you heal to move forwards.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about moving forwards.
Okay.
Let's talk about you first. When you met your husband, did you know right off the bat, you're like, he's different? Or like, what was that? Was there an aha moment?
No.
Because also that's, okay, so see, this is what people wait for sometimes.
Yes.
You go on a date and you're like, I'm waiting for all the feelings to be certain that's my guy. And it doesn't always, honestly, with most people that I talk to, I feel like that's not the case.
Right.
It takes time.
Yes, I think a part of the lessons that I'd had, for example, with my ex-fiance was it was love at first sight.
Okay.
And as romantic as that can be, you don't really know someone, right? You put love ahead of everything else and then you think it'll all fall into place. And, sometimes it doesn't. And so with my husband, Darren, I met him when I was 33. And at the time, I did not think he was my type. And however, over time, then we went on our first date a year later. And then a year after that, we were together.
Wow.
Yes. So it was a very slow unfolding. And I always thought he was really amazing. When we would run into each other, I would just say, because I was already doing this work and in breakups and dating. And I kept thinking like, you're such a catch. Like you should get online. And he's like, oh, it's not really for me. And I just thought, wow, like, I don't even know, like, I don't understand why you're still single.
Yeah, totally. That's so funny. So what was then a moment for you or like over time collected things for you that were proof that you're like, this is a very different man. This is somebody that I like want to spend my life with or that I deserve to be with.
He was incredibly persistent.
Love that. That's important, right?
Yes.
Like you want someone who's going to push for you, fight for you,
Yes.
show up for you. I say that. And sometimes I feel a little guilty saying that or like asking for somebody who does that. But I feel like it's really important.
Yes. Yes. It is definitely important. And I think everyone's love story is very different.
For
but
sure.
I think the work that I did really primed me to stay open. I was curious about him, but I think I thought I'm really into personal development. He's a lot more into, his background is in tech. But over time, we just developed more and more of an ease of communication, started to get to know one another, a sense of humor. Like he's really sporty. It just took some time, but over time, it was how he related to me and how he kept showing up that my heart just started to open up to him and I just started to see him very differently.
Yeah.
And now it feels so just loving and sweet and secure. And he's just my best friend, my favorite person. And yeah, we just celebrated our 10-year.
Happy
together.
anniversary.
Thank you.
That's so special. It's so nice to hear. And I hope like viewers and listeners, hear that and feel super hopeful that like you're going to get over to the other side of heartbreak and find someone that like makes all of it make sense,
Yes. Not without work. And that's why I tell people like that's where the 88 dates came from and like reading all of the books. And as a result, I ended up developing a career to help other people do the same thing. But no, it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. Of course, look how happy you are in the beautiful life that you have. It's so worth it. So in dating and choosing to like search for your person in this modern dating world that we're currently in.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on like modern dating and how people go about it these days?
Oh,
Truth. Hit us with the truth, Natalia. You don't need to sugarcoat it.
and this is, even though for me, the starting point is the end, the breakup. Once I help people to feel better, then very often we move into more intentional dating. And because there's no point in people recovering only to get back out there and repeat some of the same patterns and mistakes. And because it can take time to transition and learn how to date in a healthier way. So yes, the methodology I have there is dating by design. But the first step of really getting crystal clear on what it is you're looking for can be the hardest part.
It is hard. It's really hard to be specific.
Yes.
About like what you actually want.
Yeah.
And sometimes looking inwards is like hard to ask yourself that question. Like it's easier for me to say that to somebody else of like what they need, but harder to like look in the mirror again and like ask myself, what do I actually need, and not feel guilty about what I need, you know?
And for them to be really qualities that are going to benefit you long term. Like are these qualities ultimately related to your happiness? Like height is not one of them.
Yeah.
Hair is not another one. Some of the most common ones I hear for women.
Really?
Yes.
That's so funny.
It's not correlated with your long-term happiness. You could meet someone who's got like the best set of hair, and then years later
then it
gone,
goes.
you don't care because you're like so in love with someone.
Yeah.
And yes, those are some common things that I hear. But in terms of modern dating, what I'm working on is trying to help people to learn timeless principles. So one of my favorite researchers, Helen Fisher, she's an anthropologist. I forget that she's written like so many different books, but she is also on the team behind Match, like where she works on a lot of the algorithms. And she's often talked about how the human brain hasn't changed in, I don't know, however long, and that mating and courtship just continues to evolve. Mm-hmm. And so I think online dating are just versions of that. And each type of courtship just has its own challenges. Like I think online dating alone can affect people where then they move into a maximizer mindset of like, what else is out there, and they just don't know when enough is enough. That's why it's so important to really have your list of what is essentially important.
Right. And then also know when someone's not showing up with those things and not just like entertaining it to entertain it. Because I don't think that's good for anybody either, because you're just wasting other people's time at the end of the day. But the problem is it's so convoluted that there's like so much of that online.
Yes.
I feel.
So taking a 4-prong approach to dating is really great. I mean, let's say online dating is one of them. The second one that tends to get romanticized is meeting someone in person. Just,
Oh yes, the grocery store, Costco.
Exactly.
I think was like the number one place to like meet someone. But for city goers, that's challenging. So
you go out, you see someone like across at a bar, but the thing is, you don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
That you could potentially screen for online. So it really is just, it's very, it can seem romantic and it's best for movies, but it's not efficient. Then I would say the next, aside from online dating, the other most common ways to meet people in person through common social circles. Mm-hmm. So like joining clubs or friends of friends. And that can always be really great because you can kind of get to know someone over time.
Yeah, for sure. It could also go the other way. Then you lose that friend probably if things don't work out.
Yeah.
There's some of that too, which is like hard, which is why a lot of people date very intentionally when a friend is introducing a friend or in the same circle, because it's like, don't mess this up, because then it's going to cause problems. Well, but there's a seriousness to it then.
And there's that accountability, and someone could kind of vouch for someone, as opposed to online where people are just sometimes behaving very badly.
My mom says it all the time. She's like, gets so weirded out about online dating. She met my dad. They were high school sweethearts, so it was very different. But like, she always says, she goes, bless her heart, she's like, but how do you know the person? She's like, I worry you don't really know them. I'm like, Mom, that's like the time. You got to put the time into it to like get to know the person. Yes. And so, it's really interesting. But see, I like meeting strangers because that sounds so weird. It sounds so creepy and strange. But I like it because it's like blank slate. Yes. You don't have any infringing opinions or stories that are going to affect your judgment. Mm-hmm. You are literally gaining your own perspective like blankly. Yes. And there's something to me, I don't know, like I like to take on that responsibility of figuring things out by myself, Yeah. And not being told like, watch out for this person and this and this. It's like, no, like I'm going to I've got all the lights are on at home. So like, I'm going to figure this out myself.
Right.
You know?
So yeah, so if you're already very aware going in and you kind of have some good questions to ask, and then over time you would be exposed to their social circles, because like that also
Says
helps
so
to
much.
vet someone.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
but I love that idea of just meeting strangers.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are some questions, maybe, if you can, like, give me 3 really important questions someone should ask in like getting to know someone, and maybe their answer like revealing a lot more than one would think.
Ooh, okay. One question I really like is asking people what they're passionate about. Too often people will go on a date and maybe ask what you do, and then you spend more of the time, talking about work, and then it can start to feel like an interview. And sometimes for some people, they might love their work, and that's great because then their personality and themselves are
Right. You can
through.
tell when their work is their passion and the way that
Yes.
they're talking about it.
Right. But it's just that time is too valuable. But then if you ask someone what they're interested in, I mean, that really kind of opens completely like the floor
Totally.
up. And then another one would be to ask them, think about their relationships. I think that definitely reveals a lot. Like, tell me about your family or your friends. I think opening it up, because family can be complicated.
Totally.
Right? Because if you ask someone, tell me about your family, and, like there's a really long story there, you've kind of put someone into this corner to have to answer that. But just how people relate to and value relationships will tell you so much.
When do you ask that question about family and friends?
Oh.
Like early on? Like
I think
first
so.
First date, probably not, but like first 3 dates?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. First date is all like, and that's why it's so good to keep it short.
Yeah.
I think on one of your podcasts you had talked about coffee date. Like there are ways to make a coffee or cocktails elevated.
Yeah.
Go to a nicer place, get a coffee and go for a walk or something like that, because you don't want to invest too much time.
Mm-hmm.
And the first date is it's the trailer. You just want to know, like, do we get along? Is there a vibe here?
Yeah.
And you want to leave one another feeling like you want to know more.
Yeah.
Like when people will have these marathon dates, like it feels amazing in the moment, but where do you go from there?
Yeah.
If the second date isn't as amazing.
Totally. Okay. And what's the third thing you would tell people of, what to ask?
It would probably be something that gets you closer to knowing their core values.
Okay, let's talk about core values, because I always find this conversation fascinating, because just knowing someone loves their family sometimes isn't enough.
No.
How do you get to the core of the core values?
There's what people might say they value. Let's just say people say they value family.
Right.
But they don't stay connected to their family or spend quality time with them. Then they might have a lot of love. But yeah, it's not a driving factor. So core values are often lived. It's how people will spend their time, where they give their attention, where they spend money, what they can talk about indefinitely. And I think as you spend those first few dates, you'll have a much better sense of someone's core values. For example, one of the core values that my husband and I share is our friendships and our relationships. And it was something that we spoke about at our wedding when we said our speech, because the room was just such a testament to the fact that like his friends have become my friends and they feel like family and vice versa. And I haven't always had that. Like maybe in the past it's been a challenge that I had so many friends, or maybe because I'm friends with guys. And now like those guy friends have become, my husband loves them too. So yeah, like it adds so much richness to our lives. Yeah.
That's so special. That's really sweet. And I think like that's a really good point of asking like the time and the effort. It's like going beyond just what is a value to you or what you love, and really how you invest in that value, because they can be two completely different things of how you receive that value, right?
Yes. And they don't have to be the same values, but they need to be complementary.
Okay. So what does that mean?
Let's say one of mine is I love movement and I'm a dancer. I dance tango. Like that's my passion. And so, my partner is not a dancer, but he really supports me in that. And he is really into, tech and loves to tinker and loves to. So let's just say he will spend a lot of time working on the car or buying certain gadgets. And I just know and I support that he does that. Mm-hmm. And then he supports me in mine. And so they don't conflict. they add to the relationship. There are some that where we overlap, and then other ones where we complement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have separate ones then. Like
Yes.
that's, you don't need someone to have everything that is the same as yours.
Yeah.
And how do you get to that understanding and realize, like, because there's also a point, it's so funny. It's such a dance, perhaps a tango of understanding how much needs to be similar and alike and complementary, and what things you're allowed to be completely different and on opposite ends of the spectrum. Is that like based on your values, would you say?
In what sense? Like in communication or hobbies? Or
Good question. And finding your person, like holistically.
how much needs to be the same?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you think it's good? Like, do you tell people like date someone who's not like you to bring out another side of you?
Okay.
Or
Now
do you know what I mean?
Yes. Okay. So now I see where you're going with this. And I think there are different relationship models.
Okay.
Some people love a lot of overlap. I know couples like that. They love to do everything together.
Right.
Like they're just outside of work, they're attached at the hip. And then there are other couples that are a lot more independent. So I would say there tend to be, let's just say, kind of those like 3 types where one's a little bit more balanced. Other one like really values togetherness. Other one's a little bit more side by side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they kind of live independently, but together. And all of them can work. Just like this reminds me of when people ask, you know, in terms of opposites or like do opposites attract, it all works.
Yeah. It just depends what works for you. You have to figure out what works for you.
Yes.
I got
Know
it.
thyself.
That's the message, I think, of all of this. Natalia, this has been amazing. I love chatting with you. We're going to do another one on attachment styles, okay, where we can really get into that, because that's fascinating to me. Okay.
I would absolutely love that. And we can talk about, anyways, I can't wait to have that conversation.
Where can people find you, follow you, and seek your counseling advice and services?
So the best place for people to find me would be at Loveistics.com. And in particular, in regards to breakups, we can just go /Better Breakups. That's where I'll have a lot of breakup resources.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing all your wisdom and experience. And happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you so
Living hope.
much. Thanks, Nicole.